genie bags from somebody in Washington or in Paris. No, it's got to be productive investment. It's got to be real investment. It's got to be investment that are going to make a difference in the country. What do we need the most in Haiti right now? We need education. We need infrastructure. We need roads. We need water distribution. We need health care. That's what we need.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you say that. Sorry to interrupt you, because there is a lot of money floating about. I mean, billions were pledged to Haiti, particularly after that devastating earthquake. Yet only 5% of the rubble from the earthquake has been cleared, according to Oxfam. You still have, the cholera epidemic, and of course, millions still living, over a million living in 10 cities. What is it? Is it a lack of administration of the money, or is it downright theft and corruption?
The problem is at the donors, there is a problem with the donors' countries themselves. Most of these monies that you're talking about have not been dispersed. 90% of the money really hasn't come to Haiti. The money is sitting outside somewhere. I don't know where it is being managed. I know the World Bank was supposed to be the depository for most of the money, but a lot of the promises made on March 31st, 2010 never materialized. Of course, we do have a situation where money that were collected here in the U.S. from the Red Cross and a host of other charitable organizations, those monies were actually given by the people who dispersed them, but they were kept by the agencies. For example, the Red Cross, as one of the biggest one, has said itself, it did not disperse all the monies that it got from the collection to help Haiti. So this is where the problem is. We need to rethink all these things. If money were collected for Haiti, then we need to find a way to make sure those monies are spent productively in Haiti. Certainly the Clinton Commission is not the answer. Certainly the Clinton Commission is not working. So whatever new government is going to come out of Haiti, and we'll have to rethink the Clinton Reconstruction Commission. I agree with you. 5% of the rubble have been removed. This is nonsense. How are you going to have reconstructions if you have rubble still strewn all over the country? So that's the problem that we are facing. There is a poverty industry that is in place in Haiti that is preventing progress from being made. And that's what we need to address. We need to address the real problems, and we need to address the poverty industry.
And Mark Weisbrot, do you believe that there's a parallel state that's actually running among the NGOs in Haiti? Ricardo Seitenfuss, formerly the special representative of the OAS to Haiti, he'd spoken to my colleague Gabriel Elizondo not too long ago, and he said, quote, "We cannot make Haiti a Disneyland of the NGOs." That's how he characterized it. Was he right?
Well, yes, and I think that is one of the problems. As I said, the United States has, and together with its allies, Canada and France, they have several times already, in many ways, destroyed the Haitian government. Then it was hit even harder, as you know, by the earthquake and physically destroyed. And they haven't shown a lot of interest in building it back up. Again, the problem is that they're more interested in power and control, and you can see how they're fighting so hard. If they only put half of this effort into reconstructing Haiti that they've put into trying to control who runs the government, what little government there is, Haiti would be much better off.
Okay, let's take a call of Paul in Maryland. Paul, go ahead.
Yes, I have a number of concerns of this discussion. One, in reference to President Narcissus, that's the question that was asked, is his return back to Haiti? I say fine, let him come back to Haiti. But I think it also, the Haitian government should have the right to try him on any charges they feel that he has committed crimes while he was there. But there's also been this illusion that people keep putting out that the U.S. government under George Bush was opposed to Aristide, and that's why they took him out. I say to most people, remember the fact that the U.S. government took out Baby Doc too. Are we going to say that the Baby Doc was in odds with the U.S. government when he was removed? No.
Okay.
They removed him because they were fearful that the people of Haiti was ready to remove him.
Paul, can I come in there, Paul? Because there's 2 minutes left on the program, and you made two very strong points there, actually. So I want to get Harry Fouché to address them in good time. Harry?
Well, first of all, thank you for the call, Paul. The situation with Aristide's removal in 1991 is totally different from that of Duvalier in 1986. Duvalier has been a dictator for 30 years. Aristide was the first elected president in Haiti. So those are two different two different things. And as far as also Aristide is concerned, he was overthrown a second time on February 29, 2004. So, let's get our facts straight, Paul.
Okay.
Those are two different matters.
Okay, Mark Weisbrot, in about 30 seconds, I'm going to give you the final word here.
No, I think that's true. What Harry said is very true. The problem is that the overthrow of Duvalier was different. That's like in Egypt today, where they start to realize that they can't maintain a dictatorship that they've maintained for decades, and so the guy has to go. Aristide was a completely different phenomenon as a democratically elected president, and that's what they really fear. They are working against democracy in Haiti. That's the real problem. It's still going on, and I do think they're going to have to get used to a new reality. Just as in Egypt, they're going to have to get used to the idea that Haitians also have the right to free and fair elections.
Okay. Great. I think we'll end it there. Mark Weisbrot, co-director of the Center for Economic and Policy Research. Thank you very much for joining us, as well as our guest in Chicago, Harry Fouché, the former Consul General of Haiti in New York and currently chairman of the Consortium for Haitian Empowerment. Fascinating discussion. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And thank you for being with us. Remember, you can follow our program on Twitter. We'll keep you notified on upcoming shows, and you can send us questions and comments to pose to our guests. On the next show, Fighting for Food. 2011 has already set a record for the high prices of basic edibles, exacerbating hunger and poverty in many, many parts of the world. What is driving up the price of food, and what are the solutions? Make sure to tune in for that. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Business Latest is brought to you by the Qatar Tourism Authority and Catalan. Business Latest is brought to you by the Qatar Tourism Authority and Catalan.
All sides, all views, all ways. Al Jazeera.
Qatar Tourism Authority invites you to the 8th Doha Jewellery and Watches Exhibition from the 15th to the 20th of February 2011 at the Doha Exhibition Centre. Sponsored by Qatar National Bank and Qatar Airways.
It's filled with surprises, yet with a touch of the familiar. It's all those things you imagined, and some you didn't. It intrigues and fascinates, and often delights. It's a story of the world, and it's one with many endings. The 5-star global network fly to over 90 destinations on board one of the world's youngest fleets. Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
Personal blogs by professional journalists. blogs.aljazeera.net.
Protesters defiant, workers on strike. The calls against the government grow in Egypt. Hello, live from Doha. This is Al Jazeera. I'm Adrian Finnegan. Good to have you with us. Those protests are taking place as a group of so-called wise men are trying to negotiate a transfer of power within the government. Also on the program, anger grows in Pakistan over the US diplomat who shot dead 2 people that he says were trying to rob him. put him on trial. Now, Italian prosecutors call for action against Silvio Berlusconi over sex and abuse of power allegations. And little talk, less action. The latest negotiations between North and South Korea collapse after just 2 days. So thousands of people protesting and workers taking industrial action. Two sets of people angry at Egypt's government and who say they've got a lot to be angry about. And while they're unhappy with the repressive government and poor pay and conditions, others are trying to sort it all out. A group of so-called wise men have been negotiating to organise a transfer of power within the government. One of them is Amr Hamzawi, research director at the Carnegie Middle East Centre. He told us that the government's not giving them much confidence.
The official position, be it from the vice president or the prime minister's position, is that the president is going to remain in office until September, and that he continues to practice his authorities and that he is responsible for putting Egypt on democratic transition path, which is basically our main problem, guys, be it in our committee or in the Tahrir Square. It is unacceptable because we lack trust in Mr. Mubarak's commitments to political reform, and even more so after we have been seeing the first announced steps by the ruling establishment in the last days. These do not mount to a reform package. These are minor steps where we are hearing that the state of emergency would be pending the security situation in the country, where we are hearing that the parliament will not be dissolved in spite of the fact that kind of rigged elections, where we are hearing we are going to amend the constitution, but it's going to be the new president in September to decide in which direction Egyptian politics will be going. These are not reassuring steps, and we lack trust in what the establishment is doing. And analytically, I see it as more of an attempt to consolidate the authoritarian system.
Well, Al Jazeera's Ayman Mohyeldin is in Cairo. He says that the deadlock between the government and the protesters looks set to continue.
Well, the political standoff between President Hosni Mubarak's government and the so-called Committee of the Wise Men continues without any progress, really.